Did you know that it's Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month? Let's make some chicken adobo. It's a term given to the native Filipinos from the Spanish to describe any dish that had to be marinated before consumption. In doing so, whenever any of my relatives plan to make the adobo for a family gathering, someone is always confused since they were expecting a different kind of meat to be cooked. The main ingredient, or holy trinity, of adobo is always either chicken, pork, or beef. Today, I'll be cooking chicken adobo since it's my favorite and the most common out of the three types of meat. Personally, I don't really enjoy how much more fatty pork and beef adobo can be, so I chose to make the chicken variation of the dish. The Philippines is a country of many tastes. Over our existence, we have been occupied by many other countries such as the Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, and the Americans. In doing so, we built up this varied palate. We like the sweet stuff, sour, and salty. In my opinion, this has led us to be able to cater to many people from around the world who might find our meals enjoyable. The dish isn't that complicated to make. It's really just meat, soy sauce, and vinegar. I was going to follow a professional recipe I found on YouTube for measurements, but that would have been a dishonor to my family. Filipinos don't measure, we feel it. We stop until the spirit of our ancestors tells us to stop. Soy sauce. Can't forget my boys at the Asian market. Vinegar.
What? Pause.
Garlic. Papa no likey. By the way, that wasn't intended. I didn't mean for it to spill out before. I taped it a little bit so it wouldn't do that, but it ended up doing that. Peppercorn! Here's the real big boy. We like to have the whole peppercorn since it has more flavor. Salt! MSG! We Filipinos don't use puny utensils such as tongs or forks to drop the chicken in. We use our hands. We might as well stir it with our hands too. Now we let that settle and soak up all of that juicy goodness for 20 minutes or longer so I can write the rest of the script. I'm joking, by the way. Ideally, you would want to marinate it for an hour or two, but I only let it sit for 30 minutes because my family's hungry. Next, we have to saute the onions so they can caramelize. Onions have a natural sugar within them and it's released when you cook them. It gives the adobo more of a rich taste since it balances out the salty nature of the dish. You can also add some brown sugar to counteract the saltiness if you'd like. Since our chicken has absorbed the sauces, you can add them back into the pan. You want to cook the chicken first before adding the sauce mixture back into the pan, since if you were to add them at the same time, the sauce would be all done but the chicken won't. You want to avoid raw meat. While it's cooking, we will add the rest of our spices. Like I said earlier, Filipinos eyeball every time we make a dish, so I don't know when it'll finish. So I'll be checking every now and then to see if it's completed or not. I'll taste the sauce later if it needs any more spices or has to be sweeter, and we'll adjust it based on my personal preference. Adobo fact! Despite many believing that the Spanish brought adobo to the Philippines while under conquest or colonization, adobo was in reality a common dish already served within the Filipino community. I also had assumed that adobo was just another Spanish dish, since most of our culture is shaped by Spanish influence. Spanish religion, language, and cuisine can be seen incorporated within Filipino culture today. The Philippines has a weird climate where it's hot and the air is humid. Like many other regions with warmer climates, the indigenous Filipinos developed methods to preserve meats. One method was to bathe their collected meats in vinegar and soy sauce. The acidic and salt-abundant nature of the mixture wasn't a hospitable environment for bacteria. The delicious yet practical nature of the technique boosted adobo's popularity among the islands. It's completed! Here we have our elegant dish with my elegant family, except Lorenzo because he has COVID.
Okay.
In the Philippines, we use what is called the sacred three-finger technique, where we put our first three fingers together and claw the food together because we're too lazy to use utensils. Adobo is always eaten with rice. Usually you mix the sauce of the adobo within the rice and suwa, which means to go back and forth to eat multiple parts of a dish and conjure it up on the same utensil and eat it. Sometimes, when the adobo is too salty, we just ignore it by counteracting it by filling the bite of food by overloading it with rice to subdue the salt, since we're too lazy to care about it. Now here's a montage of my little brother enjoying his meal. In all seriousness, though, this was eye-awakening to me since most of the Philippines' original culture had been lost post-colonization. Most of our native culture prior to then had been assimilated with Christian and Western ideologies. That sense of unity had been disrupted, and I felt I could bring some of that back by providing this dish. I hope you have a great Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month.